What am I afraid would happen if I said what I really thought or honored what I actually needed? So there's a fear factor there if you're not speaking up. So the point of this is to say you cannot supplement your way out of a life that continually requires you to abandon yourself. Are you tired of the overwhelm and the nonstop anxiety and ready for simple, doable steps to beat burnout, support your body naturally, and process the heavy emotions through a biblical lens? Then you're in the right place. I'm Cassie, wife, mom of 5 home-birthed babies, and a trauma-informed women's health coach who crawled out of deep burnout myself. I learned how to rebuild my energy and my identity from the ground up. If you're ready for steadier energy, emotional stability, and joy that doesn't evaporate by noon, then grab your not coffee, take that one quiet breath you're going to get for the day, and let's dive in. Because if you're waiting for a perfect moment, you might as well pencil it in for never. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Christian Wellness for Weary Women. I'm your host, Cassie Hutton, and I'm so excited that you are joining me today for this episode because it came up more than once this week with multiple clients. Are you suppressing your voice? But the beautiful thing about every single client that I talked to, they basically discovered this on their own. All I did was ask a few underlying questions and help to guide them to their own discovery. And it was just such an incredible week of self-discovery, of coming undone, of old belief patterns taking the back burner and new ones coming to the forefront. And that's the whole point of the work that I do, is not to just give you a supplement, but to help you realize that your health is directly linked to what you believe, how you are functioning in life, what you're doing with yourself. Your body lives that experience and your body holds on to the stressors that you're putting it through. And so when your body's going through stress, you're going to be living in a constant cortisol spike, which is then also going to keep you in a place where you are over functioning, and it's just not good. It's just not good. So I want to share with you, though, a couple of the breakthroughs that my clients had because they're success stories. But before I get into that, I want to invite you to download the Overwhelm Detox Planner that's in the show notes because, in fact, a lot of that freebie that you can download will direct you to a lot of the questions that I'm going to ask in this episode. They're not the same exact questions by any means, but it's the same thought process. It's the same cornerstone, if you will, that's going to lead you and guide you to detoxing the stress in your life, detoxing where you're stretching yourself too thin, and helping you to target core beliefs that you are believing that shouldn't be there. A lot of that planner also helps you to identify what is actually setting you off. When are you being set off? And it's a planner. It's to help you track what is actually causing you to stay stuck in the place that you're stuck in. So start there, okay? All right, so on to some of the success stories this week. I'm going to read one to you. I asked her some questions, and we had an exchange of emails, and I could see something, and I had this visual image in my mind that specifically about health, but it doesn't just have to be about health for everyone. You know, we hear about the central nervous system either being in rest and digest or fight or flight. And we really think of fight or flight being bad and rest and digest being good, but that's not always necessarily the case. We want to be able to move between the two because some stress is good, but we do want to be in that rest and digest state the majority of the time. But here's where some things can get tricky and where we might not see ourselves showing up in a fight or flight pattern is you think of fight or flight as we get into an argument and I'm either going to flee from it or I'm going to rise up and fight. But there are other ways that the fight or flight pattern can show up. And one of those is basically when your health comes to a place where you feel like you're doing everything that you can and you start just grabbing for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, this is the fight or flight pattern showing up. Instead of resting in, I'm going to try this for an extended period of time and rest in this place and see if it works and try it out, and then recognize that, you know what, we might need to pivot along the way and do some course correction along the way. But for the majority of what I'm doing, I'm going to stick to it and stay here. And the fight or flight pattern shows up whenever you start reaching and grasping for other things because you become worried that you're not doing enough. And so you look at certain areas of your health and you go, oh my goodness, let me try this. Let me try that. Let me try this. Let me try that. Okay. And so here's what one client said this week. She emailed me. She said, also, I'm wondering if my seemingly unsettled way of, quote, looking for more is a mental way of a flight pattern from thinking and feeling life's problems. I had never thought of it that way, but it seems that I need to practice resting mentally in order to feel. When I read that, it was like the floodgates had opened for this client. And it was like, you just hit the bullseye so perfectly. All I did was ask a few questions. She doesn't even say in there that some of my questions led her to believe this, but I was like, this is it. You don't understand just what you did for yourself. And you did this all on your own. And this is incredible. And so I, of course, encouraged her with that. But I want to pose that same question to you. Are you in that scenario where how she said it, her unsettled way of looking for more is actually a mental way of fleeing from feeling life's problems? I think almost every person in burnout or who's under any kind of stress or who's someone who just naturally goes to their phone instead of actually being able to sit in the quiet and feel life's problems, she has defined them to a T right there. So she's not the only one. I'm 100% certain of that because I was definitely in that place at a time in my life as well. Okay, so then I had another scenario. I had a coaching call, and I actually am coaching sisters right now on, not together, they're separate. And I was on a coaching call with one while another one was sending me some voice memos. And the sister, we were going through some things, and I asked her some questions at the end, some transformational questions, and asked her basically, because of the things that she has been able to stay consistent with, and she was very concerned that maybe she wouldn't be able to stay consistent with, I said, what does this point to about who you're becoming? And she told me a lot of things, but then towards the end, she said, I'm just really becoming very self-aware. And she said, it's almost concerning how self-aware of what's going on in my body I am. And she said, even I had to voice out to my husband something. She didn't give me the details of what was going on, but she looked at him. And I think so many of us women can relate to when we need to say something to our husbands, we suppress it. But she's starting to feel, and we've never even had this conversation. She brought it up all on her own. She said, I'm starting to realize I can't hold it in anymore. And so I looked at him and I told him, I don't know if you're going to be happy with me, mad at me, surprised at me, encouraged with me, or what you're going to say, but I just have to say this. And I didn't even ask her what it was. It was the fact that she realized she could no longer suppress it. The details don't matter. The core of it is she's learned she can't suppress it, no matter what the reaction is going to be, because the truth is that we as women, we can't control the other person. And if we're scared of the way that they're going to react, then that's their immaturity coming through, okay? And we can't control that. That has to be on them for them to figure out. But at the same time, what was really cool is that her sister was voice messaging me basically the same thing. She said, I'm going through a lot of these questions and I just realized we just held a lot of things in. And so is it really that suppressing all of these things really affects our health? And I'm like, yes, it's quite incredible that you are sending me this message at the exact same time that your sister is saying this on the other line. I'm still a little blown away about it. And then I had a brand new client who I was talking on a call with this week, and we got to talking about some things that she really needed from her husband, and I so felt myself in this place. I've been there and can still be there with my husband a lot of times, where as women, we need and long for that intimate talk and that place to catch up and for conversation to really happen and for us to just go like, what's on your mind? Like, I want to know what's going on with you. How do you feel? What are your dreams? What are your visions? And let's dream together and let's, spark one another once again. And she said, we put it on the calendar and we talked about when we were going to do it. And we were both on the same page. And we never actually followed through with it. And I looked at her and I said, well, you're the woman. You are the provocative one. And I don't mean that in a sexual way. I mean that in the way that as women, as the feminine in the relationship, you are the one that actually provokes the man to move. And so it's on you to keep that schedule and to keep that appointment. And just very encouraged. I felt like she was very encouraged by that, to just hear that, oh, okay, I'm the one. Instead of me waiting on him to be the one like, hey, I remembered that we have an appointment tonight. Men just aren't going to do that, especially if you're married to a man that's like my husband. I very much could tell that my husband is very much like her husband in the way that they think and probably go through the world and life, and they're focused on being a provider. And so they have to be reminded like, hey, there's some emotional things that need to be taken care of here. And so she felt that authority and she felt that role. She stepped into it after our call and was like, okay, that is my job. I have to be the one to remind my husband that we're going to do this because he does want to do it with me. He's just not going to be the one that takes the action. He's not going to be the one that provokes it because he needs me to do that so that he can be there to actually build it with me. And so I share all of those, I hope, to give you some examples of what suppressing your voice might look and feel like. And so I want to bring about a few other things. Basically, this is you minimizing what you need. You're minimizing what you actually need in the situation and what is important to you. And you're people pleasing. You're saying their needs matter more. This thing matters more. And I'm just going to shrink back and be a little wallflower and not really say how I feel because it's rooted in what will happen if I disappoint them or if I speak up. And so you're afraid of what might happen. And that might be because of what you experienced as a child. Maybe you did actually grow up with parents that would react or brothers and sisters that would react when you actually spoke up for what you needed. And so where are you saying that it's fine or you're fine when you really aren't, when really the situation is not fine? Your beliefs affect how you live, and your body lives that life. So your beliefs around your worth, your identity, your safety, rejection, these all influence behavior. You're constantly overriding yourself when you don't speak up for yourself. And that is going to continue to equivalent to a chronic stress, over-functioning, stressed out system. This is what I love about the HTMA because it gives us lots and lots of clues as to what questions we need to explore alongside the physical picture of what is actually going on in your body. So some of the questions that come up around looking at HTMA and how I try to weave this into my practice. These are some just very basic ones that we can ask ourselves. And even if you don't have an HTMA graph in front of you and you don't really know where your mineral levels are, these are still some questions that you can ask yourself in order to help lower that stress bucket, in order to help make sure that overwhelmed feeling that you're feeling and the fact that you're not using your voice and you just continue to shut yourself down, you can begin to address that through some of these questions. So 1, where are you pushing beyond your capacity? Number 2, where have you felt the need to armor or protect yourself? Or where have you felt that you haven't been protected? Number 3, where have you not spoken your truth because you feared rejection or backlash? And who or what is draining you? This is a big one, and also very much part of what can be addressed and helping you to target that in the Overwhelm Detox Planner. So go download it. So moving on to what you actually believe about yourself. So I want you to think about some of these things, because what you're doing can reflect what you actually believe about yourself. And so if you believe that your worth is valued in how useful you are, then this might mean that you feel like you can never rest. So again, it goes back to a belief system and some things that you need to explore about yourself, because that looks like a physical picture of never stopping, never giving yourself some margin to just slow down and actually take a deep breath and give your body some time to come down out of fight or flight and into rest or digest. Does love equivalent to you like keeping others happy? So in other words, you can't say no. You don't say no so that everyone else is happy, because their happiness is what makes you feel like they can love you. That should never be true. You should be loved for who you really are. Do you stay quiet because you fear rejection and so you don't speak up? And then for a lot of Christians, this is a Christian podcast and we're addressing the Christian side of things, and there's a lot of unhealthy belief systems because of some things that the church teaches, or just things that you've been taught throughout the years that actually might not be true. And so do you believe that serving others equivalates to actually abandoning yourself? Because that should not be true. Serving others should not mean that you forget about yourself and you become less and less. In other words, you don't actually take care of yourself and you put everyone else first. No, you still need to take care of yourself and put yourself in a place of, no, I am priority, because I can't take care of others if my bucket isn't filled first. That is a huge one, I think, that a lot of women get stuck in serving others in the church, and then they abandon themselves. And in fact, they abandon their own family. Family should come first. We should first be serving our family before we are out serving others. And so what part of yourself have you sacrificed in order to be loved, accepted, or needed? So as you go into this week, start to notice when you override yourself, whenever you start to suppress your own emotions, your own feelings, and when you start to say, well, we'll either take care of this later, or maybe it'll happen later, or maybe he'll take care of it. No, this is the point where you need to say, hey, I need a few things right now, and this is what it is. I know, as women, we just want our man or the others around us to just see it and feel it and sense it and know it, but it's just not going to happen. It is our job to speak up and say what we need, how we need it, when we need it, okay? And a man is happy to meet those needs, but they're also happy to hear the exact layout and outline of what it is that you need from them. So I have one more question for you. This is what I want you to ask yourself. What am I afraid would happen if I said what I really thought or honored what I actually needed? What am I afraid would happen if I said what I really thought or honored what I actually needed? So there's a fear factor there if you're not speaking up. So the point of this is to say you cannot supplement your way out of a life that continually requires you to abandon yourself. You can throw all the supplements out, but if you actually begin to express your fundamental needs, I bet you would see a lot of healing, a lot of turnaround. Forget completely about the supplements altogether. In fact, people are taking so many supplements that their system is working overtime to try and process those supplements, when really you just need food, you need sunlight, you need fresh air, you need nourishment, you need warmth, and you need to take care of yourself. You need to speak up for yourself. You need to use your voice again. Amen? All right. Love you guys. Let me know what you thought about that episode, what comes up for you, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Hey ladies, I hope today's episode hit you where you needed it. If it did, take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who's burnt out, praying for relief, and tired of feeling like God's strength is for everyone but her. And if you haven't yet, leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It helps more women get the support they've been begging God for. Now I'm off to make my adrenal cocktail and do the slow, steady work that pulled me out of survival mode. I'll meet you back here next Tuesday for another episode. Bye.